In 2017, fake news was named Word of the Year by Collins Dictionary. It became part of our daily vocabulary, and its usage skyrocketed by 365% in comparison to 2016. Whenever we turned on the TV, opened the newspaper, or checked our social media accounts, we inevitably came across this phrase, and one person was largely credited for popularizing its use.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
But what is fake news? It depends on whom you ask. In academic circles, many scholars have understood it as purposely crafted, sensational, emotionally charged, misleading, or totally fabricated information that mimics the form of mainstream news. But among ordinary people and journalists, fake news has been used as a catch-all phrase that can mean a wide variety of false information, from rumors, lies, political spin, and conspiracy theories, to reporting that politicians don't like. For this reason, some scholars and government officials have argued that the phrase can be misleading and confusing. In 2018, the British government even banned it from official documents, pointing out that the phrase fake news is poorly defined and recommended instead the use of the terms disinformation and misinformation. But what do these two words mean? Both refer to false or misleading information, but their difference lies in the intent of the person who created or disseminated the content. If false information was created without the intent to deceive or harm, then it's called misinformation. However, disinformation is knowingly creating and sharing false or misleading information with the intent to deceive, mislead, and do harm. Misinformation and the ubiquity of fake news have been around for centuries. We could say that it is as ancient as the human tongue. Throughout history, the spread of misinformation has started conflicts, fueled hatred against ethnic groups, affected businesses and commerce, and influenced elections. The phrase fake news probably first appeared in the US media during the late 19th century. In the 1890s, two rival newspapers in New York, owned by Joseph Pulitzer and William Hearst, printed fabricated stories and false rumors under sensationalist headlines to grab more readers. The fierce competition between the New York World and the New York Journal reached a boiling point in 1898 after an accidental explosion sank the American battleship USS Maine off the coast of Cuba, which at the time was a Spanish colony. The two newspapers sacrificed the truth by falsely accusing the Spanish of sabotaging the American Navy ship, even though there was no evidence to support their reporting. In a bid to increase their circulation, the newspapers stirred anti-Spanish sentiment among the American public, and 2 months later, both countries were at war. At the time, this practice of emphasizing sensationalism over facts was known as yellowjournalism. History is littered with examples of disinformation campaigns that sparked wars and massacres. In the wake of the Great Kanto earthquake that rocked the Tokyo metropolitan area on September 1, 1923, Japanese police officers spread baseless rumors that Korean residents were poisoning water wells, inciting riots, and setting fires. These rumors triggered vigilante lynch mobs that roamed the streets and murdered anyone they believed to be Korean, leaving a death toll in the thousands. This response to misinformation stemmed from long-standing social tensions between these two ethnic groups, a problem that persists to this day and continues to fuel anti-Korean rumors. For example, following the assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2022, a slew of posts flooded social media claiming that his killer was an ethnic Korean. In a swift response to this disinformation campaign, the South Korean consulate in Fukuoka warned its citizens in Japan that they could become the targets of violence. We need to keep in mind, however, that the modern-day phenomenon of disinformation is different from the past in 3 ways. First, it has never been so easy to produce fabricated content. Anyone can learn photoshopping techniques to manipulate images and post them on social media. And anyone with basic computer skills can easily create a website that resembles a legitimate news organization but is littered with disinformation designed to fool the public. According to CBS News, during the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign, fake news stories from these websites were widely consumed by Americans, and some were even among the top search results on Google. These fake news websites make it increasingly difficult for people to navigate the media landscape and assess the credibility of information online. Second, disinformation spreads like wildfire on social media and can reach a larger audience. How many of us have come across false information on X or a rumor posted on a community group on WhatsApp? Third, the way we consume news today makes us easy targets for disinformation. According to a report by the Pew Research Center in 2022, digital media is playing an increasingly key role as a source of news and information. The report shows that half of American adults sometimes get their news from social media, and roughly a third of American adults say they regularly get their news from Facebook. This study speaks to a broader problem, which is the public's growing reliance on social media as a main source of news and information. Many people prefer reading news on social media feeds because it is easier and more accessible. However, these social media platforms prioritize posts with higher engagement among users rather than stories from legitimate news sources. And at times, these posts with higher engagement are riddled with disinformation. The U.S. presidential election in 2016 shed the spotlight on how hyper-partisan disinformation can erode democratic institutions, marking a turning point in the conversation on the subject. In the run-up to the elections, Facebook users were flooded with fictitious stories that preyed on voter biases, from Pope Francis endorsing Donald Trump to Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton having Parkinson's disease. And let us not forget about the widely popular meme featuring U.S. Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, in which she enthusiastically backed Donald Trump's idea of building a border wall to keep out Mexicans from illegally entering the United States. In the meme, she allegedly said, "There are those who say a border wall won't work. They just don't have the vision Donald Trump does. The Chinese built a Great Wall 5,000 years ago. You don't see any illegal Mexicans in China." Just to clarify, she never actually said this, but this didn't stop online users from reposting this meme and having a good laugh. After all, misinformation ran wild during the 2016 presidential campaign and led many to question whether this avalanche of false and misleading information ended up swaying the election results. Misinformation has also been blamed for fanning ethnic hatred, from inciting violence against the Muslim minority known as the Rohingyas in Myanmar in 2017 and 2018, to disseminating anti-Asian sentiment during the COVID-19 pandemic. In the online business world, fake websites that resemble those of news organizations such as the BBC have even been successful in attracting gullible investors eager to cash in on the newest get-rich scheme and become millionaires. Creating impersonator accounts and fake posts on social media to sow confusion has also become commonplace. Just ask former Japanese Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi. A few months after the start of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict in 2022, an anti-Ukraine tweet pretending to come from the account of the former Japanese defense minister spread online. It featured Kishi's official Twitter handle and profile picture. The Japanese text, translated by Google into English, read, "The world is on the brink of a nuclear disaster. Ukrainian missiles should not explode over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Don't repeat America's crimes. Today may be the last day of mankind." Below the text, side-by-side photographs of the nuclear power plant and Hiroshima at the end of World War II implied that an attack on the nuclear plant would be as devastating as the atomic bombing of the Japanese city by the United States. However, the former Japanese defense minister quickly clarified that the tweet was fake and posted on his verified account that the tweet that the Russian embassy in the UK is spreading does not originally exist. It's fake. It seems like people are proactively spreading this false rumor. Although social media giants have vowed to crack down on impersonator accounts and posts that disseminate misleading or false content, their promises have been greeted with skepticism. Social media platform X, for instance, was criticized for allowing users to post wrong or unverifiable information on the Israeli-Hamas conflict. An Israeli analysis firm has claimed that around 30,000 fake accounts have been spreading pro-Hamas misinformation since the beginning of the conflict. While social media companies grapple with such challenges, governments have taken steps to respond to the intentional deployment of false information for nefarious purposes. In 2022, Sweden launched the Psychological Defense Agency, a government agency tasked with fighting disinformation. That same year, U.S. Congress approved funding for the creation of the Foreign Malign Influence Center to combat foreign disinformation targeting U.S. elections and public opinion within the United States. But these efforts to curb disinformation have been complicated by the technological advances in the field of AI, or artificial intelligence. Images, texts, and videos created by AI tools have reached a point where it is harder to distinguish them from the real thing. Because of this, it is becoming harder for us to trust what we read, see, or even hear. To make matters worse, the limited attention span of social media users and the abundance of information online has provided a breeding ground for disseminating information that is inaccurate, manipulated, or simply untrue. Fighting the spread of disinformation will continue to be an uphill battle.